to? We're fixing to pop the light on right here. It is vain for you to rise up early and to sit up late to eat the bread of sorrows. He said, I don't care how early you get up, and I don't care how late you stay up. He said, it's vain, it comes to nothing if you're doing that just to make ends meet. Now, the bread of sorrows that he's talking about here is the provision that we're eating off of or living off of is coming through that worrisome toil. Are you still with me? Coming the world's way, coming through the world system. Now watch this. He said, it is vain to rise up early and to sit up late to eat the bread of sorrows. Now that means this. Now I'm not against overtime. I'm not against overtime. But what he's saying there is this, is you can get up early and you can take all the overtime that there is in the world. And if you're doing things your own way and operating under that worrisome toil world system, well, why do you work? Well, I work because I have to. Well, why do you have to work? To make a living. How many people go out of the house, got to go make a living? Now, some of you are looking at me mean right now. Well, he's a preacher. He don't know nothing about it. I know everything. I know. I've done it both ways. And I'm telling you, God's way is better. Now, that doesn't mean we're not supposed to work. He's just saying you can work, and work your fingers to the bone. And if you're working by that because you're worried and because you're just trying to make ends meet, he said when the end of the day comes, you're not going to have any more to show for it than just pretty much up in smoke. Yeah, more weak than paycheck. Well, Pastor, why do I go to work then? You go to work because God needs you somewhere right now as an ambassador of truth and an ambassador of the blessing and an ambassador of the good news in the gospel of Jesus Christ, an ambassador of goodwill, an ambassador of God's will out to that world system. Now we're in the world, but we're not of it. But we're sent into that place to be a blessing. And then God told us we work for the same reason that He worked. He worked 6 days. And then He gave everything He had produced out of that work. He gave it away. And then He rested. In Ephesians chapter 4 it says, let him that stole steal no more. Rather let him work with his hands. It's not wrong to work with your hands. There are people sitting in this building that are tradesmen and are extremely good working with their hands, and they're a blessing working with their hands. But he said, let that man work with his hands that he might have to give. So we don't work to have to get. We work to have to give. Well, why would we give? Why would we take the first 10% of our income and give that, and then give an offering, a seed offering on top of that? Well, let me tell you, the tithe and our giving propagates, activates the blessing. So we go out there to be a blessing. in the workplace. Listening to the voice of God. Listen to me. If you're going to work out there 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, you better know you're where God wants you. I said, you better know that God opened that door, and that's where you're supposed to be, and that's where you're supposed to be a blessing. And light, the light of the world, the salt of the earth, you're there to be a blessing. And see, when we work to have, to give, then that activates a blessing. Now watch this. He said, it is vain for you to rise up early and to sit up late to eat the bread of sorrows. Now look at the next statement. For so he gives his beloved sleep. One translation says, he gives his beloved sweet sleep. Now what is he saying there? He's saying, don't let worry be the driving factor and be the really foundation of why you're doing what you're doing. He said, because if you let worry and anxiety be the reason you're where you're at and what you're doing, you're working under that curse in that world system, and all it's going to do is produce, it's sorry, it's broke. It is broke. See, look right here. It doesn't start out there. It starts right here. Right here. Right, it's a heart issue. Let not your heart be troubled. You let not your heart be troubled. Well, if we can't worry and we can't be full of anxiety and get up and down out of bed all night popping Zantac or whatever, Pepto-Bismol, then what are we going to do? Sleep. Don't worry.